Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Welcome to the Table with your host, Friendly Neighborhood GM or DM as the case may be. Um, I wanted to, I was reflecting on our beginning of our 5th edition conversion game, and it occurred to me a couple things. First of all, boy, weeknights can be crazy. Second of all, that I didn't really give much in the way of tutorial to this one, whereas when we first started playing 5th edition for my birthday party the previous year with Julie leading, I'd done this whole thing where each person got a talk through of I got the basic talk through of here's how you look at the character sheet, and then some specifics for some of the people. Neglecting to do that this time, I feel like I probably could have, just for the sake of everyone's comfort with and familiarity with what's going on. So I am intending to rectify that tonight in at least a small way to give a little bit of my own observations and with the ultimate goal of having this be a fun time. And let me preface all of this by saying, it's a game, and if give it the college try and people aren't enjoying the game, then we don't have to play this. We can go back to, enjoying all of the different haunts and betrayal, and how many superlatives can Matt give to the different characters. And that will be just as fun a time as anything. But with that being said, I do want to give this a try and give this a shot. And of course, we may also find that given our own experiences, but also given the vastness of possibility in 5th edition, that maybe a new character is a better idea than trying to morph the old one. We'll see. But in any event, just wanted to give that as a quick preface before we dive in. So I wanted to go into the two classes that you guys were playing, Battlemaster Fighter and Lore Bards, a little bit, and just give a little bit of my own understanding of them. The whole goal here just to gain a bit of familiarity and get an idea of how, from a strategic standpoint, what are some ideas of how you can play your character and go forth with tactics and combat, just so that you're not sort of in this moment of paralysis of, oh my gosh, there's a million things I could possibly do. What should I do? So with that in mind, let me start off. Here is Renbar, and I've sort of zoomed in now. Really quick, if I go back just to the full page view, that's not going to be legible. That is a reminder of what you're looking for here. And again, this is just getting familiar with this system versus the other ones that we've used. So your ability score is located in the small box. The ability modifier, which you use, is the ones here. Anything you're proficient in gets the proficiency bonus added to it, so that's already been done for you. For example, saving throws that are proficient in have the added bonus there. Skills that you're proficient in have the added bonus in as well. And this is done alphabetically. The copy that Julie was using for Meg has it split up by what of the different abilities the check is based off of. So alternate forms of the same concept. Armor classes, if something hits you. Initiative is what you add to your initiative roll when we start combat. Your speed in feet, and of course we're using a grid, so as I'm hiccuping away, so the grids are 5 feet. Square inches are indicative of 5 foot by 5 foot square. Hit points are located here. Role-playing ideas here. The hit dice for when you are taking a short rest and recovering HP here. The attacks that you make here. The damage here. And types of damage sometimes. I guess I should probably throw that in there. But regardless. Features. So fun things that you can do are on this side on the right. For example, Renbar gets to have advantage versus poison because he's a dwarf. He gets resistance against poison damage because he's a dwarf, so he's very stout, but also stalwart. He has a little bit of extra knowledge about history when it has to do with stonework. He also is a member of the Brewers Guild. He utilizes protection fighting, so he can use his reaction to impose disadvantage when he uses his shield to, kind of block the attack of someone that's adjacent to him. He can take an action surge once per short or long rest, and gets to do an extra action that turn. usually the choice there is to attack again. Combat superiority, this is what makes a Battle Master, and there are a number of possibilities, but here are the ones that I picked out, not because they're the best necessarily, but I thought they were interesting. And they are located here. Goading attack. The purpose of a goading attack is to get an enemy to focus more on you than on somebody else. So it's, it's face me. It is trying to prevent attacks on other people. Attack the tank instead. Maneuvering attack allows you to move one of your comrades into an advantageous position. So they can use their reaction to up to half their speed. So it helps you to set up something, or indeed it says the creature can use its reaction to move up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So if someone's in danger, you say, get back over here. You can actually have them move out of danger without getting a hit on them. Pushing attack, this one purely because of the whole, like, clotheslining the musketmen off of the ship. That as you attack, one of the things you can do is kind of push them away, and there you have it. So that's kind of what I decided that you are a meat wizard and you cast Fist. So that's what's going on here. You of course have your cantrip is Punch. You're welcome. So that is something I would suggest considering. So when you are in the midst of combat, you are maneuvering yourself. During your attacks, you can say, hey, I'm going to use a combat priority die to do blah, blah, blah. And you do get them back. You get 4 per short rest. So there's really not too big of a concern about conservation. Because if you guys tend to take short rests after combat, that means you're going to get these back pretty quickly. So yeah, so feel free to use these. As far as going from that to lore bard material, now here's where, so my initial thought here as far as retooling and reskinning is of course that the way that Vi was playing in Fantasy Age as a rogue was pretty bland. Was, okay, I go up to the thing and I stab the thing, or I take out my bow and I shoot the thing, which is very formulaic, not very engaging, tedious. So I was, and then of course knowing that playing Lady Tyrael, enjoying spellcasting, that's a lot more fun to do. I happen to agree with you. So the bard being a way for Vi to kind of transition from one to the other. The idea also that that her biting words, sometimes towards Renbar, now all of a sudden actually have magical ability, and so psychic damage, like that appeals to me just as a concept. And so I think, like, rather than like a traditional bard who is singing along or playing an instrument or something like that, like, this is just Vi just says stuff, and because of the things she says, things happen. So when she uses healing word, it's as if, like, she's saying, oh, it's not that bad, and it's almost like willing that into being, that, like, oh yeah, that wasn't quite as bad of a stab wound, for the sake of, like, bardic inspiration. It's an encouraging word. I don't know, it's a growth mindset, who knows, but I think that would be sort of the intent there. And then for any sort of attack spell, it's something that's said to belittle the enemies. So a couple things that I wanted to go over. Let me just quickly check what I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, so the attack action. I believe, yeah. So I think where this came into play was when I've played a bard. When I played Belethor, Belethor is a different type of bard. He's a valor bard, so he's a little bit more like go up to him and fight using my weapon. And in that case, he gets 2 attacks per attack action. Lore bards only get 1 attack per attack action. It's still fine to do, but that was something that I wasn't noticing at the time, but was happening at the table, and it's like, okay, well, and I think by doing less of the actual, like, going and stabbing, attacking, or at least having feeling like that you don't have to do that because that's like the most advantageous thing to do, frees up some possibilities. So with that in mind, as we go along, yeah. So a couple quick things. Cutting words is a use of that bardic inspiration where you can reduce a roll you can use your reaction to reduce the roll by 1d8 when a creature within 60 feet of you makes an attack, or a check or a save or a damage roll. So it allows again the words of Violet to alter reality in its own slight way, or to confuse, or to just distract for the moment, and it works. As we get to the actual spell casting, I didn't have spell cards for these prepared, and indeed I think I need to for the future, just so you know what you're doing. But from my own experience, if I just kind of quickly go through some basics here. When you look at the cantrips, first two are utility. Friends is where you attempt to, you get advantage on a persuasion check on somebody, and a few minutes later they realize that you were using magic on them. But for the moment, they treat you as their friend. So it's a way of, since she enjoyed talking up the guards and so on, and using that as her way to kind of, get more information or what have you. I thought that would be an ideal use there. Light is just useful to be able to see, especially for anybody that doesn't have dark vision, and sadly, halflings don't have dark vision. And then Vicious Mockery is an attack spell that you can use at will. The fun thing about it, of course, is the fact that you can say something insulting, and you say that insulting thing, or what have you. The creature needs to save against it, and if they succeed, whatever. But if they fail on that save, they take psychic damage. You hurt their brain, and they also are so demoralized that they have disadvantage on their next attack. So it's actually pretty useful to do, and it can be done at range. You don't have to go straight up to somebody. The actual range I'll look up, but that's just as an idea. Like, if you have nothing else to do, Viciously Mock. It's the fun thing to do as a bard, as a lore bard at least. As you get into some of the leveled spells, Charm Person, not as huge in combat, although you can use it that way. But you attempt to cause a creature, a person in this case, has to be a humanoid, to you sort of give them a command of some kind, and they treat you as an ally, and for the duration of that spell, they're not gonna, if they take damage from somebody from you or somebody, then they're gonna maybe notice that, oh wait, I was having magic done upon me. But if that doesn't happen, then you can kind of magically persuade them that, oh, this is great, you should be our friend for now. Healing Word, of course, very useful. Can be done as a bonus action, so it helps to kind of keep people up. Sleep is a neat spell, because what you do is you cast it at an area. You roll some dice, and again, the actual spell card will tell you what to do, but you roll dice, which then adds up to different hit points. And so in that radius, you can choose, okay, I did this many hit points of sleep, so a amount of creatures equal to that many hit points. So if this creature has 5 HP, let's say you rolled 10, and there's 3 creatures. One has 5 HP, one has 3 HP, one has 2 HP. Those all go to sleep. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? Let's say somebody else is in there and has 12 hit points as well. So that one didn't get affected, but the others did. His comrades fell asleep on him. That's a neat way to be able to control the playing field a bit. So that's useful as not as a direct attack per se, but it does change the dynamics of a battle, because all of a sudden you go from having a whole slew of people trying to attack you to just 2 or 3. Thunder Wave is another attack spell. That one is you wind damage, basically. A thunderous wave goes through the air, whacks the people in front, and I think they may have to save or they get thrown. I could be wrong about that. In the level 2 slots, Hold a Person. This is pretty useful, because if it's successful, the person that's cast upon can't move, so they're paralyzed. And that really helps in combat if all of a sudden the baddie that's going to be attacking can't do anything because he's frozen, and then gets beat up upon. I also thought this would be good for Vi. Invisibility, you can, on yourself or somebody else, you can cause them to go invisible, and they'll stay invisible until they take some sort of attack action, basically. Or if they do some kind of interaction. If it's just passive, they're walking around, whatever, they're invisible. But if they are actively doing some sort of attack, then they show up and are visible again. But a neat way to get around. Dispel Magic is utility, get rid of magic that's happening. And then another area of effect attack, Stinking Cloud. I did have Bellathor use this in the Bluto Bilge-Rat fight. And for a time it worked a little bit. But it's causing an area of effect. Creatures in that area have to make a save or they're choking on the stink of whatever it was. And boy, if you were to say something about their hygiene and it's the cause of all this, or the lack of hygiene is the cause of all this, so much the better. So anyway, those are some of the options available to you. The other thing about lore bards that make them pretty fun is the fact that they, at some point, get expertise, which means that you get to be extra good at certain things. That's not at level 5, I don't think, for them. Nevertheless, you'll notice that you have some pretty strong... actually, you know what? Maybe you do. Yeah, that plus 10 here to Persuasion definitely is a result of expertise. The plus 10 to Deception, also expertise. So you can lie the pants off something, and that'll be, that's more fun to do in social settings, in social foo, as one of my friends used to call it, as opposed to in combat proper. But anyway, there you have it. So anyway, that's just some thoughts as far as ways to have some fun. I do hope we get a chance to go at this again, and hey, maybe Silverius will come running through the woods to you guys' rescue. We'll find out. Anyway, this has been a special edition of Welcome to the Table, and again, I hope this has been helpful and or entertaining, if not another Sunday afternoon. Speaking of, I will be getting some sleep soon. Bye all.